All right, let's dive into a book that has been a guide for millions. M. Scott Peck's The Road Less Traveled. Now, its core message is surprisingly simple, but it's also revolutionary. It argues that real growth, the stuff that truly matters, doesn't come from trying to dodge our problems. No, it comes from walking right up to them and facing them head on. So let's start with the book's legendary first sentence. Just 3 words. Life is difficult. Now, at first glance, that sounds, well, kind of depressing, right? But Peck says this is actually the most liberating truth you can ever accept. Why? Because until you accept it, you can't really start the journey. This is the starting line for all real personal and spiritual growth.
So why is it so important to embrace this idea? This idea that life is hard. Because, and this is the paradox, the moment we truly accept that life is difficult, it somehow starts to feel a whole lot less difficult. And here's where Peck just flips the whole thing on its head. He says most of our misery doesn't come from the problems themselves. It comes from our shock and our complaint that we have problems at all. We walk around expecting life to be easy, and then we get angry when it's not. But think about it. Once you accept that challenges are just a normal part of the human experience, like rain, you stop wasting all that energy fighting reality, and you can start using that energy to actually solve the problem in front of you.
Okay, so this leads to a really important question. If problems are just a normal, expected part of life, then where does all our deep, gut-wrenching psychological pain actually come from? Peck pulls in this incredible idea from Carl Jung. Let's break this down. Legitimate suffering is the good kind of pain. It's the effort, the grit, the struggle required to solve a problem. Neurosis, on the other hand, is all the extra suffering we create for ourselves when we try to run away from that legitimate pain. So our deepest pain isn't the problem. It's our avoidance of the problem. And that really lays out the choice we have every single day with every single problem. We can go for avoidance. And yeah, it feels better in the short term. It's the path of comfort. But it leads to stagnation, to that neurosis we were just talking about. Or we can choose to confront the pain. It's absolutely harder right now, for sure. But it's the only path that leads to actual growth, to wisdom, to a life that feels meaningful. So if confronting our challenges is the answer, how in the world do we actually do it? What's the tool we need to navigate all this difficulty? Peck's answer is one powerful word: discipline. Now, when you hear that word, you might think of punishment or being super rigid, but that's not what Peck means at all. For him, discipline is a set of tools. It's a proactive skill set we use to face reality as it is, to solve our problems, and ultimately to build our own mental and spiritual health. It's the how-to manual for growth. And the great thing is, Peck doesn't just leave discipline as this big, vague idea. He breaks it down into 4 very real, very practical components that any of us can learn and practice. These are the 4 pillars that hold everything up. Here they are: delaying gratification, accepting responsibility, dedication to truth, and finally, balancing. You can think of these as the 4 core techniques for living life on life's terms. So let's break each one down. First up, delaying gratification. This is basically the art of scheduling pain and pleasure. It's deciding to tackle the tough homework assignment before you turn on the TV. You confront the problem first so you can enjoy the reward after, guilt-free. But Peck says this goes deeper than just willpower. It actually comes from a childhood sense of being valued, a deep, unconscious belief that if you wait, the future holds something good for you, and you are worthy of it. Pillar number 2 is accepting responsibility. And this one is a game changer. It's about radically accepting that if a problem is in your life, it is your problem. It's about realizing that no one is riding in on a white horse to fix things for you. The power is in your hands. Peck tells this perfect story about a soldier he was treating in Okinawa. The guy complains he's bored and that there's nothing to do but drink. So Peck, as his therapist, asks a pretty simple question: why not go to the library instead of the bar? And what follows is his classic dance of avoidance. First, the soldier says, "Oh, it's too far." Turns out, the library is actually closer than his favorite bar. So when Peck points that out, the guy immediately switches tactics. "Well, actually, I don't like reading much anyway." You see what's happening? Every single solution is met with an excuse. The real problem isn't the lack of options. It's his absolute refusal to take responsibility for his own life. Now, Peck says most of us struggle with this in one of 2 ways. On one end, you have neurosis, where you blame yourself for everything, even stuff you can't control. The mindset is, it's all my fault.
On the other end is the character disorder, where you blame everyone else for your problems. Their mindset is, it's all their fault. And honestly, a huge part of becoming a mature adult is learning to figure out what's truly your responsibility and what isn't. All right, pillar number 3. This one might just be the hardest of them all: a dedication to truth. This means a relentless, ongoing commitment to seeing the world as it actually is, not as you wish it was, especially when the truth is painful. Peck uses this incredible metaphor. He says that all of us have a map in our heads. It's our understanding of how the world works. But the world itself, that's the territory, and the territory is constantly changing. So if you want to get anywhere without getting hopelessly lost, you have to be willing to constantly revise and update your map. So why don't we just do it? Why do we cling to our old maps? Well, because it hurts. Revising your map means admitting you are wrong. It means questioning beliefs that have made you feel safe for years. It's incredibly difficult work. And because it's so painful, Peck argues that many people just stop. They get to a certain age and decide their map is finished. And they spend the rest of their lives trying to bend reality to fit their outdated map, which, as you can imagine, never ever works. And that brings us to the final pillar: balancing. You can think of this as the master skill. It's the wisdom that brings the other 3 pillars together. It's knowing when to apply discipline and when to let go, when to be angry and when to forgive. It's all about judgment and flexibility. But at its deepest level, balancing is about one thing: the courage to give things up. And we're not just talking about bad habits. Sometimes we have to give up parts of ourselves, our identities, our cherished beliefs that may have served us in the past but are now holding us back from who we need to become. And when you put all of this together, something amazing happens. By using these tools of discipline, you start to transform life's inevitable pain. It stops being something to run from and starts becoming your greatest catalyst for growth and, paradoxically, for freedom. Peck shares this incredibly vulnerable story about himself to show what this looks like. He's playing chess with his teenage daughter. She's tired and wants to stop, but his competitive drive is so strong that he insists they finish. He pushes and pushes until she bursts into tears. And in that awful moment, he has this painful flash of insight. He realized that the very same drive to win that made him a successful professional just made him a terrible father. To grow, he had to give up a part of himself. He had to sacrifice that obsessive competitor to become the loving parent his daughter needed right now. That's balancing. And that really leaves us with a pretty profound question to think about. The road less traveled isn't just about gaining new skills or knowledge. It's often about the painful but totally necessary process of letting go. So as you think about your own journey, ask yourself this: to grow into the person you're meant to become, what part of your current self, of your current map, might you need to be willing to sacrifice?